Today I get to catch up with Adrienne Daunt, House of Peregrine business member and the founder of Tobi Towel. She has also recently founded a wellness community called Swell. Adrienne is originally from the US. She left Chicago in 2013 to study for an MBA in Italy, and then she and her partner decided to stay in Europe and has since called Amsterdam home for the past 8 years. By day, she is the digital product lead at Nike, leading teams to develop digital consumer experiences. Her entrepreneurial spirit and unending energy has driven her to develop, in her extra time, both an innovative and amazing biking product called Tobi Towel, which you can find in the House of Peregrine marketplace, and a community for health and wellness entrepreneurs called Swell. For her, it's all about planting seeds. You never know how someone may impact your life. What she loves most is talking to people about their business ideas and connecting early stage entrepreneurs. As we discuss in the episode, she even has a running list of startup ideas on a spreadsheet that she keeps around as part of her process for finding her next great idea. Iteration is key in startups, and Adrienne truly is an entrepreneur and operator at heart. I loved our conversation and hope you will too. Welcome, Adrienne. I am so happy to have you on today. We know each other in real life, but also I am a huge fan of everything you're working on. So I want to start out by first asking you about your story, like we know each other from Amsterdam, but there's lots before. How did you come here? And tell us everything about that.
Yeah, sure. Happy to do so. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So, yeah, a little bit about me. My mom is originally Italian, so she's from Italy. And as a child, the first time I traveled to Italy was when I was 8, and I fell in love. We went as a family and we traveled around a little bit. My mom still has family over there, so I got to meet my relatives there for the first time at that age. And I think just realizing that there is a world outside of what I knew, really, like I said, hooked me in at that young age. And fortunately, because we had the family, we traveled back almost every other year as a child growing up. And so I had that exposure. We would travel throughout Europe as well. And so finally, it was 2013. I said, okay, it's now or never. I was living and working in Chicago at the time. And I said, I've never lived abroad. It's now or never. And took the leap. As I said, I
And I just
have,
want to back up a little bit. Like you grew up in the States.
yes.
In Chicago or somewhere else?
So I'm from Ohio originally.
Ohio.
So I was
Okay.
born and raised in Ohio. Then I went to school in Indiana at Purdue. And then most of my professional life was in Chicago.
I see.
And yes, and then
So your childhood made you assume maybe that sometime it felt like your other home in a way, Italy and Europe.
it did. And, I continued to travel even with friends, friends from university, friends from Chicago. And I always felt, and it's funny, my brother will tell you, well, it's no surprise that Adrienne moved to Europe because every time she came home, she cried, which is like literally true. And so I guess I just felt this connection, and like I said, there was just kind of this strong draw for me to be here. And yeah, and again, I think it was when that seed was planted when I was 8 and never went away until, like I said, in 2013, I finally made the move.
So it was like not if, but when you would make the move.
Pretty much. It was when and how. So, as I think you have a really good opportunity to study abroad when you're in university. I did not do it then. And so it was kind of like, oh no, now I'm starting my career. What do I do now? How do I make that move? How do I do it responsibly? And so I remember having this conversation with a friend in Chicago over dinner. And she said, well, you've always wanted to get an MBA. What if you went to study an MBA? And so I started looking into programs
It's those
and
life-changing one
exactly.
sentence someone says sometimes, right?
Exactly. And so it was like, okay, the light bulb went on. And so I started doing some research. I found a very international program at the University of Pisa, where my cousin had also studied. So, I knew it was a reputable university. And, I think, when I look back at the experience, I think it's one of those things where when it's meant to be, things just fall into place.
Yeah.
So I owned a condo. I still own a condo in Chicago. Again, it's like sometimes you think like, oh my God, real estate. Like I'm so tied to this. I can't be free. There are ways, to deal with that. So I was fortunate. I found, someone to rent my apartment. I have ever since. Like I said, I still own the condo in Chicago. So I was fortunate, that fell into place. With work, I had to resign, of course, because I went into a full-time program for the MBA. But I ended up finding, I got into the program, found a place in Pisa. So, again, things just kind
Yeah.
of fell into
It
place.
just
I was
started
able,
rolling once you
totally,
decided. Yeah. And that I
totally.
think a lot of people have that experience where it's just you find that moment, and it sounds like this lunch really had this
Yeah.
this effect where you're like, oh, it is. And I think a lot of times housing and all these constructs do give us false blocks, and then
Yes.
once those are removed, it's like everything moves in that direction. Wow. So your MBA brought you to Italy.
Yes. Yes, and so I was in Italy. The program was for 1 year. So I was in Pisa for some time, and then I actually was fortunate enough to live in my mom's hometown. She
Mm,
lives in a tiny village in the mountains of Abruzzo. The name of the village is Barea. So it's like, again, and when I first went when I was 8, my mom said, we have a lot of family here. Okay, I get it. But then I went and I'm like, it was like, that's your cousin, that's your cousin, that's your cousin, that's your cousin. I'm like, what do you like? I have 3 cousins in the United States. What do you mean all these, like this whole village are my cousins. This is insane.
wow.
But it's like that, And so both of my mom's parents were from there as well. And so of course, like, a lot of people are still living there. And so there's a lot of, indeed, second, third generations and cousins that are there. So I
So
got
it
to
was really
spend.
for you a bit like returning to a motherland of sorts.
Yes. Yes. And so it is very comfortable. Again, it's funny.
And did you speak Italian already?
I had picked up some here and there. The program in the MBA was in English,
Mm,
and so it got it. I actually got a lot better with my Italian while I was living in that village because there was not an option to
yeah.
not to speak English. And so in the MBA, I kind of cheated a little bit, and because it was so international, it was very easy just to have a simple conversation in English. But in Berea, when I was with my family, there were times that we were at dinner and I was thinking I was speaking Italian and had maybe a confused look on their face. And I'm like, I'm not exactly sure what I'm saying. And I don't think but it's just, the act of practicing and like, okay, got to give it my best shot.
Yeah.
But yeah, that definitely helped with the Italian language.
What did you learn about yourself in that experience of like just having to go for it?
Yeah, I mean it's tricky. It's challenging. And I would also say that um it's uncomfortable, right? And so it's something where you know, I always think that language is an Achilles heel for me because it really is putting yourself out there. So you do feel very vulnerable, when you're practicing and you're a beginner again, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that that's a lot of people who are monolingual, like me, really don't have that skill of beginning again. And so I think for me, it's been really rich. And I imagine for you, and especially being with your family, that would be an extra layer of, was it a coming home or was it a new skill or was it a little bit of both?
It was a little bit of both. It was familiar. I think that, being there again, like I'm just picturing it in my mind, and being in my cousin's home and, kind of the smells and everything, is definitely very familiar. Having had the experience that I had, since and kind of my life experience since I was a child living in Chicago and kind of traveling, there was a bit of, it was nice to be in a small village, but also kind of like, oh, I'm not sure that this is for me. Also, not having super easy access to an airport, so I also learned a lot of things about because I always kind of thought like, oh, I'm going to live here because I loved vacationing there. So I thought like, well, if
Yeah.
I love to vacation there, obviously I would love to live there. But and I found that that's two very different things.
Hmm.
And so, I kind of came to realize like, okay, I do enjoy being here, but I don't think it's my forever place.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So the Italy chapter was your MBA kind of, and a little bit of a exploration of family, which is really cool. And then you left Italy after your MBA.
I left Italy after the MBA. So the other very important part of the MBA is that I met my husband there.
Oh, nice.
Yes. And so, um, and so he is Colombian. And again, it was a very international program. So we met in the program. He also was with me when I lived in my mom's hometown, and we lived in Italy together. We then I kind of say we were homeless because we had both left our countries. We had both joined this MBA full time. And, we weren't, we kind of tried to stay in Italy for a while. Like the economy wasn't that good. And so we were also trying to see what our options were. I think both of us wanted to stay in Europe. And then we came to visit friends and family in Amsterdam. Funny enough, on King's Day, like the very
Oh,
first, yeah. So
for everyone listening, King's Day is not representative of every day in Amsterdam.
exactly.
It's like a massive citywide party.
Exactly. Which I had been warned, but it was also just kind of a shock. I mean, we literally had one suitcase to our name. We took the train from the airport. We were walking in Amsterdam Zuid, dragging our suitcases to my brother-in-law's house, and just trying to, and then we immediately went out into the city to experience the festivities. But literally, we had those two suitcases to our names, and really no plan of what we were going to do next.
Yeah. Wow. And that came about just because you guys were intentionally trying to land somewhere. It's like, let's
Exactly.
be intentional with our next step. And since you knew you kind of wanted to be together in your next step, you were threading the needle of all the cultures you have in you. And what was that like? For me, it seems really romantic. Was it romantic?
Um, yes and no.
Well,
I think
having only one suitcase to your name could also be very stressful. But
exactly,
yeah. So tell
exactly.
me
So
about it from your perspective. Sorry.
yeah, no, there was certainly an element of, this is exciting. We're kind of blazing our own path. The kind of the future is unknown. All of the doors are wide open, which sometimes can also be a hindrance. It's like, oh no, like they're too wide open, which I've also learned it just seems ironic, but I've learned
Overchoice
that
is
yeah,
stressful. Yeah.
exactly. It can be stressful. So, there was a time that it was very exciting, of course, exploring the city and kind of getting our bearings and all of that. The one suitcase to our name, the other thing that we did when we first moved here was we would live in an apartment of someone who was traveling for maybe 1 month at a time. So we were constantly in someone else's space, living out of our suitcase. So there was a point when we're like, okay, we need to make a decision. Like, are we staying? Are we going? Because this kind of, purgatory isn't, it's not working.
The in
Like
between. Yeah.
the in between. Yeah. So, I think there was definitely, an expiration date to that. And so, we were able to find, fortunately, a really great apartment and then just say, okay, at least for the short term, we're going to stay here. That was 8 years ago. And so, that often happens, that
Yes.
short term becomes, your long term. Yeah.
It's
And,
like
and
dating the
so
city. I always say it's like dating a city. So you're not committing yet, but you're dating, and then suddenly you're together for 8 years.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Amsterdam does that to people. Many cities do, I think. But so when you stayed and you guys started building a life together from two different countries, that also is blazing a new path in a way. Um, and so, how did that look for jobs? For like, did you have a method to bringing both of your cultures in, or was it just playing it by ear?
A lot of it was playing it by ear. And I think that's representative of both of our personalities. But I think that um, I, one way definitely that we brought it together was with food. So my husband is a very good cook, and so there would definitely be some Colombian influence there. Again, his brother was here at the time, so we spent time with his family. I had a good friend from Chicago here at the time, so I kind of had that, American outlet as well. We also, were kind of very mindful that, we needed maybe time in our home countries every now and then. So we would either travel together or one of us would go just kind of for special occasions, wedding or otherwise. But we kind of did our best to find our way, but just kind of made it an active exploration
Yeah.
throughout that phase.
Yeah. And do you think that's part of your personality or something that is it inherent, or did you learn to be more open?
maybe a bit of both. I think that as you start to expand your boundaries, you naturally become a bit more open.
Mm.
I think you start to, when you see more of the world and you understand, yeah, that there's more out there, then you maybe start to ask for more, and you start to look for more.
Yeah.
And so I think, and then you can start to see, and again, for us, it's food that kind of connects us to different countries and cultures. So whenever we're going somewhere new, if someone's like, oh, I've been there, it's always like, what food do we need to eat? Or when someone says they're from a different country, like what's your favorite dish? So it's always that underlying tone of connecting via, the cuisine,
Food. Oh, nice.
the food. Yeah. Yeah. That's it for us.
Yeah, cool. So you're in Amsterdam, the two of you, beginning a life together, really just making a life completely outside of either one of your comfort zones.
Yeah.
A new language for both of you. What happens next?
Yeah. So I'd always had, let me back up. When I went to get the MBA in Italy and I had left my job and life in Chicago, my idea was that, hey, I'm going to start something new in Amsterdam. And I had always had kind of this itch to be an entrepreneur and to do something on my own. One of the things I guess that was a hobby of mine is making body products. So naturally made body products with butters and oils and things like that. And I had given them to friends as gifts. I had, used them. I still do use them myself every day. And so friends had always said, oh, you should buy those, or you should sell those. You should, make a business out of it. And I had a lot of reasons why I wasn't going to do that. Yeah. And so I think, I kind of thought at the time, like, okay, maybe I will try to do that. And so I, tried to look at different ways of connecting with other entrepreneurs in the health and wellness space. I even was able to do I did like a natural deodorant workshop. And so I was just starting to get my hands in with people, again, who are doing essential oils or, just really trying to kind of find my way in this space. And I don't know, what ultimately ended up happening is I found it was really hard, and so I never really built that muscle, especially my whole career having been kind of in the corporate space. And then I think maybe it was too many new things at once, whatever the reason was, the timing wasn't right, that, it just didn't work out for me. And I thought like, oh my God, this is way harder than I thought. And, after coming from a full-time MBA, it's just like, okay, I need to look after my finances. So I think it's time to start job searching. I was fortunate to get a job with Nike. And so, and it was funny because when I got the interview with Nike, and I actually started as a contractor. So as I got the interview, and the woman that I was working with said like, oh, I have good news. You're going to have an interview with Nike next week. And I thought like, but Nike's like the biggest corporate company. I was trying to do something independent. This is the opposite of that. And so I went to the interview and I was really blown away because the culture and the vibe at Nike is like nowhere else I've ever been. And so, people were just kind of like, there's just this energy and this buzz and everyone looked cool. And so I thought like, okay, I think this is a place that I can be. And so since 2015, I have been working with Nike. So another 8 years, with them. And so, I think that also helped give us that stability, and kind of say, okay, again, this is something that, for me also having that kind of transition was a little uncomfortable. It's something again that, being in a new place, being without a job, just trying to find my way, like this kind of gave us that stability. And then I would also say it really helped me expand my network and my friends and, just kind of having that social outlet as well.
Yeah, it's like a portal. Like a company is like a
Exactly.
portal of socialness. And when you first arrive, there's so many new things. Everything's new. You don't know where to buy things. So having that, it almost is an impossible task to start a company as well as do everything else you do when you change countries.
Yeah.
And so that's, yeah. So you found that balance in having a really solid, creative corporate workspace, which is
Yes.
how a lot of people come abroad is they already have that. But entrepreneurs have the extra, which is interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. So 8 years in, you are,
8 years in.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So 8 years in, and again, still with Nike. Actually, we're still in the same apartment that we had found, like when we decided to, unpack our suitcases for good. So I think we made a really good choice on that one. But I would say, like, I'm also I'm at the point now where I still have that entrepreneurial itch. And so in recent years have also been doing a lot to really foster that. So I'm very fortunate that I can do that alongside of, again, my day job at Nike. And there's really kind of two things that I have going on in that space. And so I don't know where you want me to start first. I have one that's more product based and then one that's more service based, and
Yeah, well,
it all
I
kind of
love
comes
them
together.
both. So why don't you start how it started? Did you start first? So you have I think we can tell where the entrepreneurial community came from. So why don't you talk to us about that first?
Cool. So the entrepreneurial community, indeed. So I lead a network of health and wellness entrepreneurs, and it's funny because this is something, again, it comes from my passion of the natural, natural kind of homemade products, and just knowing that, like, you can go to your kitchen and you can basically get everything that you could at Atos. So you could find something for your skin, deodorant. I mean, everything, like, it's all safe enough to eat, and you can actually use it on your body. So it's something that I'm very passionate about.
Yeah.
I ended up starting a meetup group, and this was I think I started the meetup group in 2018, and then I don't know. I was like, oh, geez, that's like kind of scary. And so I sat on it for almost a year before I actually activated it. I activated it at the end of 2019. And the idea was kind of to do in-life podcasts. So just to, like, have people come and speak and be inspired, and then just start to build that network of these health and wellness entrepreneurs. I had one in-person event, and then of course we know what happened in 2020, and so then had to pivot and then started doing events online. Have had people in my network come in and give workshops on social media or sales or other skills that entrepreneurs need, as
And
well as
yeah, and I think it comes from, if I may, you're trying to provide the support you didn't have when you
exactly,
first arrived. That's
exactly,
how I
exactly.
feel. And it's not just support. It's not support. It's actual skills, skill building.
It's both, because I think there is the skill element of it, and there is definitely the support element of it. So, one of the things also that I did, and I'm actually coming back to now, uh, during the pandemic, was just having people come together online and share their ideas, and it was like this beautiful session of, like, giving and taking. So people would come to those sessions just to help other entrepreneurs. So, there might be someone who is talking about, let's say, their yoga business, and there's someone who's in technology giving them ideas about how they can grow their business. And so you really just see how other people want you to succeed and are willing to give their time and ideas to doing that. So again, that's something that, as my community and network has evolved over the years, that I'm kind of coming back to, because I just really love that give and take, and I think that's what builds those rich and deep relationships. And I think that's really where you feel like you have I don't know, it's more than a network. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think sometimes the word network can sound cheap, but this is really like, no, I want to foster those, like, I want them to be your friends, and, like, friends that
Yeah.
you can count on and people that you can trust. So that's what I'm trying to build.
Yeah. For everyone listening, there is an accordion outside of the window. I live in the center of Amsterdam. That's where I'm recording this. And there is an accordion. Please enjoy. But there's nothing I can do about it. um, you're
Can you
not
name it a
imagining
tune?
things. Yeah, you're not imagining things if you can hear this accordion, this lovely accordion outside. Um, so what I see is you are creating that container that Nike provided for you. And so here comes
I
the
hear
accordion.
it.
You hear it, yeah. I'm just going to go with it and say it's part of the Euro flavor of our podcast. It's only a gift when someone arrives outside of your house playing the accordion.
That's true. That's
Like,
true.
there's no, I don't even know if I'd want to take it out if I could. um, so with yeah, that's what I think the difference is if you know this not even loneliness, but this thing that you have when you come to a new country. You're just starting from scratch, and
Yeah.
being an entrepreneur has many of the same
Yeah.
challenges.
I think it's a need for connection, and again, I think and for me, I think, one of the things I've learned about moving to a new place is that, at least what I did is I kind of cast my net wide and I made a lot of connections. And there's some that I'm like, this is not one that I want to foster, and then the ones that I did, I did. But like, I think when you move, you kind of have to cast that net wide because you don't have a lot of options.
Yeah.
And so again, like what I'm trying to do is really create those deeper connections, because I think that's what you can rely on, again, to help you through whatever transition or whatever goal that it is that you're trying to reach.
Yeah. And in adult life, our friends usually are our work. And so especially if you're transitioning from already having that out, it's a huge transition in adulthood. We play while we work, right? That's
Yeah.
what
Yes.
we don't have as many opportunities, especially as entrepreneurs when starting out, to do that. So yeah, I think it's really, really special. So that's ongoing. And I've been lucky enough to partake of some of those. They're really wonderful.
Thank you.
And House of Peregrine has definitely benefited from the community. So then you decided in the pandemic to try your hand at product creation as well.
Also, yes. And
I would like to also say you had a baby somewhere in there. I don't
I
want to
had a
leave
baby.
that out.
Yeah, exactly. The baby came in 2022. So towards the end of the pandemic, but yes. Yeah. And so that, of course, and we can get into that, that's a whole other chapter,
Of course
that
it is.
that
Yeah.
I'm entering into. Yeah. And so, yeah, that's another, I guess, product that we
Yeah.
delivered. But the main one, I guess, and maybe just a quick story about also what happened during the pandemic is having this itch of entrepreneurship, again, kind of doing these online workshops and things like that with the community, is that I said, like, hey, I also want to try my hand at products. And my husband is very crafty. Again, I do my natural body products. So we started very simple. And again, being in product, like understanding an MVP. I said, like, okay, we're going to put together a Google Doc, right? And we're going to like put some things on there. We're going to put a price by it. We're going to send it to our friends. We're going to see if they like it. If they buy some things, that's awesome. If they don't, like, that's also okay. Like, that is also a message, but like, we have to do this.
But start
And,
at the beginning. Why was this a problem you wanted to solve?
well,
And we should say this is now Tobi Towel, but start.
Yes. Yeah. And so Tobi Towel was indeed an item on this list. The list included some other things, which,
Okay. Okay.
yes. And so this is maybe new to you, Mickelle.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah. It says, and so this list was very random. And this list had food items, body products, like baby gifts. Like, it was a very random list. However, it gave us the confidence, and Tobi Towel was on that list, but it gave us the confidence, and friends bought it. And I thought, like, that's nice. They're being nice. And then friends bought it again. And so again, it kind of gave us that confidence, and we started to build that muscle. And so one of the products was Tobi Towel. And Tobi Towel is something that when we arrived to Amsterdam, 9 or 10 years ago, and riding the bike every day, which, by the way, is one of the things that, we love the most, that I love the most about being here. And especially when I moved, I came from Rome. And that was kind of my last stop in Italy. And, just being on the bike, like, I remember the first time being on the bike and being like, this is freedom,
Yeah.
like point A to point B, like, it's the best. So,
It always reminds me of being a kid.
yeah, no. And when friends come to visit, I have to say, like, that bell, like, cause they're like, ding, 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 like they're a kid, but I'm like, that bell is like like a horn on a car. Like, it's not to play with. I know it feels very, childlike and freeing, but it has a purpose. So
Stop embarrassing me.
yeah, exactly.
No, it's that balance,
Exactly.
right?
Yes.
No,
Yeah,
sorry to interrupt,
exactly.
but I think the bike is part of being able to feel free and young, and yeah.
Yes. No. And so the bike is, I'm not sure if I could live in another place that, doesn't have the same biking culture, which might mean that I'm here forever. But, so one of the things that we loved was riding the bike. But one of the things we hated was like the wetness and the amount of rain, as we all know, that we get in Amsterdam. And so, I think I definitely, and my husband started to keep it was a washcloth underneath his seat. And so he would keep it under his seat. He would take it out. He would wipe down his seat. He would wipe down his handlebars. He would wipe down my seat, my handlebars. And it just became something that we used every single day. Literally every single day. And so he would have one under his seat. I would have one under my seat. And so, again, as we were kind of developing this product list, one of the things we said was, hey, I think, this is definitely something that we need. This might be something that everyone else needs. What we're using is okay, but it's a little bit big. So like when we put it under our seats, the corners would kind of stick out. And then if they got wet, the whole towel would get wet.
This is like deep tracks Amsterdam bike culture. I love it. Keep going. Like, these are the details that make or break your day when you are on a bike for your main mode of transportation.
Exactly. So so we had to make sure that the towel was the right size. And sometimes the towel would like fly away, so it was we would just kind of shove it under there, but there was nothing really to secure it. So it would just like, shoop, and then we'd be lost, essentially without
and
our
I would
towel.
like to add that most people I know who've grown up here wear rain pants. But for some reason, I have never been able to convert to rain pants.
I tried a poncho because I was also not into the rain pants because I was like turned off with how do I take them off on the train? Like they just seemed very messy. So I am with you. I never got into the rain pants. The poncho also wasn't a solution. So
So this for me, this is it replaces rain pants in a way.
So this has done the trick exactly for me as well. So ultimately what we did is we ended up creating something that was better than what, the solution that we were using. So we designed it in a way that it is small enough to fit completely under your saddle so that nothing, there are no parts of the towel sticking outside of your seat, which means that it won't get wet when it rains. We've added magnets to it as well. And so the magnets will stick. There's a lot of under your seat. Not many people take the time to like investigate what's under their seat.
But you did.
I'm like an expert of under saddle construction now. So there are metal elements under there that, and the magnets that we have are pretty strong. So they'll each hold the weight of a pineapple. So like they will find the metal under your seat. And I mean, there are times that I will be parking my bike and the towel will be kind of flopping, outside of the seat, but it will still be attached to my bike. And then I can just put it back under. So, we thought that with these enhancements, that this was a really good product. And so, also with our MVP, it started much differently than it looks today. So we went through a lot of iterations. I'm fortunate that my husband is very handy with the sewing machine, which was actually a gift for me, ironically, but he's the one that's showing me how to use it. And so we just kind of tested and learned what was best for the design. We gave some to friends, and asked for feedback. Some friends said like, this is awesome. Some friends said, this is not a problem that I have. And so again, we just kind of iterated and
because they're wearing rain pants. That's the reason.
Or they're like, oh, like my butt gets wet and then it dries. And I'm like, that's really uncomfortable for me. Like that is like that period between wet and dry. Like, I don't want that. Like I want it to be dry the entire time. So, And so again, just kind of listening to what people are saying. And the beauty of this product is that it's so simple and so relatable. And so, like you can talk to anyone on the street right now and they would understand the concept of this product. And so it gave us the ability to talk to a lot of different people and get a lot of different feedback and make a lot of different iterations to the product, as well as to our messaging, and to really kind of what what has become Tobi Towel today. And so, I, even at work, like I'm at risk of becoming known as like the Tobi Towel girl, but,
as any entrepreneur would be.
I'll have a conversation with a group of people. And then 1 week later hear like, oh, Tobi Towel came up like at our lunch conversation the other day because like it rained and your saddle was wet and you had a decision to make of how you wanted to handle that. And so, and so it's just been a lot of fun to, kind of see how this is coming to life and then, kind of seeing how we can grow the product.
Yeah. Yeah. And in my own life, to add to it, my kids, I used to have to run back in to the house to grab a towel because I couldn't figure out how to store it under the seat like you, or I would just store it in the box part of the bike where my
Yeah.
kids ride in the urban arrow. But then the towel was always wet. So, but now my kids are so happy because they can wipe off their seat with the Tobi towel, and they
Yes.
call it the Tobi towel. They're like, grab the Tobi towel. And then I get to say, I know the woman who started this company.
Ooh.
And that for me is really, we say buy local, we say all this stuff. But for me, for my kids, it continues my passion for raising them with an entrepreneurial mindset to actually be watching people in
Yeah.
action making really cool stuff that they use every day.
Ah, that's so cool.
And so for
That's
me, that's the other value is it's a great product. I would buy it anyway off the shop, out of the bike shop. I would probably buy it because it's that good. But there's more value in it within bringing it within a community with knowing founders who are women. And of course, your partner's a big part of it too, but I don't know him as well. So I just say, I know the woman who started
yeah.
this. And so for me, that completes the cycle of what makes a kind of, not only have you done the entrepreneurial cycle, which is like most people make a bunch of apps and then the one that sticks, you've brought software to product creation, which I love.
Yeah.
And then just you've done it by the book with making a really great product, which is congratulations.
Thank you.
But then within our little international community, knowing all of these people who are making great products or great communities or whatever they've got going on, I think it really, for me, completes my passion of really cultivating this. And so it's for the kids. So not
No,
really,
that's awesome.
but it completes it. So yeah, so Toby Towel is an amazing product, and you're doing that. So you and your partner are your husband are creating Toby Towel together, still at your kitchen table, or is it?
Still at our kitchen table, I think we're now at the point we have, and again, kind of through this whole, this is new for us. So kind of through this whole process, I've been reaching out, and again, this is where I just find the importance of a network is like, okay, I want to do this thing. It's new. I don't know how to do it. And so, we had a friend kind of come to us to say, hey, I have contacts in India where he's from who, have a, textile manufacturing facility, because one of the challenges that we found as we started looking at sourcing it outside is just like the minimum order quantities.
Yeah,
We're not ready to place an order of 10,000 Tobis, not yet. And so,
yeah.
we were able to, again, kind of through a friend, place an order that's reasonable. And so we're about to take that step. And so that's also very exciting, because one of the challenges is just that, again, Santi and I at our kitchen table, we can only make so many Tobis. And so hopefully this will just help us get a couple more out into the world.
It's
And
time to scale.
it's time to scale. Exactly. Exactly. So, here comes a whole other, a set of challenges and kind of a new wave of this journey for us.
Yeah, it's the learning curve of the entrepreneurs and international people are always navigating, I think. And so I want to go back to something you said about because I say this all the time as well, I want to talk to you about how you said the baby is a whole other.
Yes.
What did you say? We always say they're startups, and not in
Yes.
the way that they're work, but in the way that they're something that you care deeply about and you're cultivating. And so, how would you describe that as?
Yes. Yeah, I might have called him a product deliverable. But yeah, it's funny, and again, because it's something that we're kind of learning as we go, it's one of those things. And also to your earlier question, I mean, I'm coming with my American Italian background. Santi comes with his Colombian background. Enzo was born here in the Netherlands, and so there's things where just now we're starting to like get him into preschool and start to think about like the schooling system here. And of course there's challenges of like, okay, how is that different than what I experienced? Like, what do I need to think about and to consider? And then, you start to think about like, okay, like I don't celebrate Santa Claus, like I appreciate that we have a half day of work or whatever, but like, it's not a holiday that I actively celebrate, but it's something now again, that we'll have to consider. And I think what will happen is like, it will really help us become one step further integrated here, because we were able to kind of live our lives yeah, live our lives. But now it's like, okay, we're actually, raising another life here that will have a completely different experience because this is his home. And so, I don't think that we've completely figured out, what that looks like. We've brought him to the US, we've brought him to Colombia, of course, like he's out and about here, he's on the bike, he's, doing things the Dutch way. But, for both of us, I think it's something that we'll have to continue to navigate as he grows up.
Yeah. And for me, that's the portal into the social world here. It's a, you can live in a place and kind of be, like you said, live in your own corporate environment or friend group. But when you have kids, you have to figure out which portal you're going to enter, especially living internationally. In a home country or something, you might be able to choose, say, private school, public school, depending on which country you're from. But here and being an international person, you're choosing the language they're studying, you're choosing the culture you're surrounding them with. And there's no right answer. So it really is very much like you're saying. And it gives you another portal. So you have your business portal and now you have your social portal, parenting portal, if you will.
Yes.
And I think that that's often overlooked as a complexity. And so I think that it's really interesting to hear you talk about it. And do you think that raising kids in the Netherlands, was that something you thought about, or were you not planning? Was that not part of your decision?
It was not part of my decision, and so this is again something that we're kind of taking as we go. I think even as I saw my friends and colleagues, for instance, like when they were pregnant, and they would kind of explain the system to me of like, oh, I by law have to take a month maternity leave before the baby is born, and I'm like, that's crazy. In the US, we work, like you leave your office to go deliver. But then on the other hand, they said like we deliver and then we go home right away. And I'm like, that's also crazy. Like in the US, we stay in the hospital for a week. And so, there were some things that of course I was aware of, but then they of course like really impacted me when I went through this process myself. And, having been here for so long, it had kind of become almost the norm, again, just kind of, and after talking to enough friends and understanding that like, oh, it's actually kind of nice to have that period to kind of wind down from work and like start to get into your maternal life. And, oh, by the way, like, wouldn't you rather be at home recovering than in the hospital? And by the way, you get a Kramzorg, like a maternity nurse who comes to stay with you for a week and help you, like, and so now when I look at that, I think I don't know if I would want to have a baby in the US. This was like a very good experience for me. And so it's just one of those things where, my perspective has kind of
Completely changed. Yeah.
completely changed. And now this is normal. And again, like the experience was really good. And again, we'll just kind of take it as it comes.
Yeah.
Take it as it
That's all
comes.
you can do. But I think for me, I was really intentional about what I wanted my kids to experience and what I wanted them to have, and languages was one of them. And so that was my moment of being like, I need them to experience learning a language.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the thing that propelled us into moving abroad finally. But I also often think that's so powerful. So what would happen if I decided this wasn't a great place for my kids? Would that be enough to propel me to another? And I'm not saying the Netherlands would be. It's a great place to raise kids, but I I see this with my friends as well. We're choosing for multiple people, countries.
Yeah.
Once you open the floodgate of being able to live anywhere, it's like that over choice. But then you really start honing your values, I think, in a way that you maybe wouldn't otherwise. And it's the same a little bit with being an entrepreneur. You have to hone your values, what you're bringing into the world, in a way. Well, you're almost forced into it.
Yeah.
You can't live asleep if you're
Yeah.
living abroad or living internationally.
Yeah. And it's kind of beautiful because then you get to choose,
Yeah.
like you're in the driver's seat. And so, yeah, it's really, what matters to you, what's a priority. And that's what you bring into your life.
Yeah. I usually ask people this. Do you have a process is it just kind of as long as it's smooth sailing, or do you guys come to a decision every few years, or you make the decision to stay, or is it more just going with the flow?
I laugh because literally every February, like after we've gone through a long, dark, gray, rainy fall and winter, every February, I'm like, okay, pack your bags tomorrow. We're leaving. So, like,
This is your process. I get
this
it.
is my process. This is my process. This February, I'm going to try to hedge against that. So maybe we can be remote for some time just to get a break. Because what happens then is, we get out of that winter period and into spring, and the city starts to come alive, and the days are so long in the summer, and then there's moments where I'm like, I'm never leaving, like this is the best place on earth. And so for me, I'm trying to balance the, like, we're leaving tomorrow to, like, I'm going to die here. We're going to stay here forever. So just to try to balance that,
Yeah.
from a mental perspective. But yeah, I mean, and again, we're still kind of at the point where we still feel like our doors are, our options are open, and we're choosing to stay here. We also don't have necessarily anything calling us to be, anywhere else at the moment. So, we kind of say like, okay, things are good for now. If we talk in February, you might hear a different story.
No podcast interviews for you in February. No. No, but I think it's a common story. Losing perspective about how great it is to live here in February, I think, is maybe universal.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so, we talk about it. And our decision for now is to stay. And I mean, we would also like Enzo to, I don't know, we kind of like to raise him. I don't want to say in one place necessarily, but we want him to have some stability there. Who knows, who knows what the future holds.
Listen, we're all a flight risk. There's just no,
It's true.
we have no loyalty. It's terrible. Well, there's loyalty, but not to countries usually.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. So for now, you are really now going on to the next stage of Tobi. You're cultivating your beautiful family in Amsterdam, and your coaching. I don't even want to call it coaching. Your networking community is growing. What is your ideal in a year? Like, where will Tobi Towel be? Where will the networking community be?
Yeah. I mean, I would, and again, just like you said, I mean, I am actively cultivating them. I really would like them to grow. I think that there's a ton of opportunity with Tobi Towel, and I hope that with, outsourcing some of the manufacturing, we can really start to scale that. Because it's such a simple product, people have a lot of ideas. We have a lot of ideas, but it's like, it takes us a long time to make these suckers. So, having some inventory, like, and to be able to make that sales process, and that distribution process easier, I think will really open some doors and unlock, some opportunities. So I'm really looking forward to kind of where that takes us.
So make it visual for me. Is it in every bike shop in Amsterdam? Is it every bike shop in Amsterdam in the Netherlands? Is it on your web shop on Oprah? Like, make it visual for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tobi could go so many ways. I would love to see it in every bike shop. I would love to see partnerships with like Dutch bike brands. I think that there's just really a good connection there. I would love, as you mentioned, with your kids, like I have found, and I'm now like, kids are one of our target markets, because they really do feel a sense of pride and, a sense of responsibility with wiping that seat. So, how can we get in and, get this to more kids? I think, there's an element of, hey, this is something as an expat that you need when you come to the Netherlands. So how can we also maybe work that angle of like, hey, this is part of a welcome package, or, this is something that you get when you arrive here. So, I think there are just, a lot of different avenues that we could go with this. So,
You want them in
I
people's
would,
hands.
yeah. I mean, I would love to see a Tobi on every bike, and then know that there's also one inside, maybe being washed or dried to, to backfill that one. But because I literally think that everyone with a bike can use this product.
Yeah, it's an act of self-care for your tush.
Yes, exactly. It's a peace of mind. You will arrive to your destination happier.
Yeah, and with the entrepreneur community.
With the entrepreneur community, so I'm also in the process of evolving that. So, right now I'm literally using platforms like Meetup and LinkedIn. I don't have my kind of own platform for it, so I'm working on building that out. And I'm also working on having and creating more of an offering for these entrepreneurs. So right now, again, I'm doing a lot of events here and there, but I'd like to put together, some sort of 6 to 8 week type package where we can really kind of connect and kind of get into some of those things with the networking, with growing your business, with learning from experts. So that's something that I have in the works, hoping to launch at the beginning of next year, kind of with my first pilot. But really kind of making that the destination for entrepreneurs who are looking to grow.
Awesome. And tell me where everyone can find you. Find Tobi, find the networking.
Yes.
How
Yeah.
would you
So
like people to reach out to you?
yeah. So on the socials, I'm probably most active actually on LinkedIn. And so you can find me there, Adrienne Daunt. Tobi Towel also has a page there. Health and Wellness Entrepreneurs is there. You can find me and Tobi on Instagram. So Adrienne Daunt and Tobi Towel. And I think www.tobitowel.com is our e-site. Of course, you can also buy Tobi on House of Peregrine. And
That's right.
hopefully in your local bike shop soon, coming soon.
Yeah, amazing. Amazing. And I always ask this last question, and I think you've answered it a bit already, but if there were no other factors, money, family, anything, jobs, schools, is there one place on earth that you would choose to live?
Yeah. I mean, I have to say, I think my heart is still in Italy.
Hmm.
So I do think if there was one place I would have to live, and every time I go back there, I think like, I think this is where we need to be. And again, while we were there were, just some challenges. And of course we were doing the MBA and it was a different season of life. And as I mentioned, vacation is a little bit different than real life there as well. But, every time I'm in the country, I feel it calling me. And so, I can't think of a better place.
All right, that makes sense. All right, Adrienne, thank you so much for your time and sharing all your stories. And I'm sure we've changed everyone's bike commute, not only that, but so I am really looking forward to sharing this with everybody. And I wish you luck in all of your ventures.
Thank you. This was a lovely conversation. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks. Cheers.